Look, I've been a self-proclaimed green bean casserole hater all my life. To me, it's disgusting because it came from a can, and if you've watched any of my recent videos, you know I don't like things that come out of a can. Oh my God. No. Me and my family have never had it at Thanksgiving, which seems to be a theme of my recipes this year. But I don't really know why I've hated it, because if you break it down, all green bean casserole is, if you're not using a can, are green beans, mushrooms, bechamel, and a crunchy oniony top. All things I very much love. So today I'm gonna make my very first green bean casserole, but I'm gonna make it my way, and topped with a crispity, crunchity, oniony Ritz cracker crust. And I'm finally gonna decide for myself whether that hate was warranted or if I've been missing out. And it starts with a pound of green beans. All you gotta do, take the top, snip the top off, and we're gonna leave them whole. Next up, instead of using that can of creamed mushroom or whatever that is, we're just gonna use beautiful shiitake mushrooms, and we're gonna call it a day. I'm just gonna pull the stems off, and as I pull the stem off, just gonna stack them up a little bit, just so they're easier and faster to cut in a second. And I've got about 3/4 of a pound of these mushrooms. If you want, you throw these into your turkey stock. Then I'm just gonna cut them in half, rotate them, and if they're big like this, cut them into little pieces like that. If they're smaller, I'll just cut them into quarters like that. Next up, I've got 1 onion. Cut the root and the top off of it. Cut it in half, and then grab it by its cut sides, place it down, and slice thin slices. Once you get to the end, push it over, and continue with the thin slices. Onions are sliced. Then we just have a little bit of thyme, and then slice a clove of garlic. Cut it in half, slice it thin. I'm just gonna pick some thyme right into that bowl. Now we've got our green bean mushroom base ready to go. And then to go along with that, we need to make our sauce. Now, traditionally, it's like a cream sauce, and we are going to use a little bit of milk, but we're also going to use some sherry and some turkey broth. And we're going to make it more like a gravy. A little bit of dairy in there, but to me, it's going to slightly lighten it up. It's going to give it a little bit more flavor, just sort of improve the mouthfeel a bit. Now we're ready to get started. Now, being in the thick of the holidays, that means it's gifting season. And one of the more reliable gifts that you could give somebody, the gift that gives all year, is the gift of coffee. Thanks to our sponsor today, Trade Coffee. Trade is the USA's #1 rated specialty coffee marketplace. They curate all the country's top coffee from local roasters in one place. Then they help you shop and brew with confidence with hundreds of options delivered fresh to your door. For the holidays, if you want to give somebody the gift of coffee, they got 3-month, 6-month, and 1-year subscriptions and gift boxes like brew kits, coffee sets, or the cold brew gift box that I received, all for under $200. And Trade has trained baristas providing tips, guidance, and recommendations so that you can brew at your best every time. The coffees they sell, from dark roasts and single origin to decaf and espressos, is roasted to order and shipped within 48 hours. And there's truly something for everyone, whether it's an advanced coffee lover all the way to those in need of a little upgrade to their coffee routine. So this holiday, to give the gift of great coffee, visit drinktrade.com/notanothercooking show. Link's gonna be down in the description. First, we need a pot of boiling water that's heavily salted because we're gonna blanch our green beans quickly. A higher concentration of salt is what you wanna go for here. We're gonna drop the green beans into the water. We're gonna blanch them for about 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I'm gonna taste them. I like them a little bit crunchier. If you like them softer, cook them a little bit more, but these are good for me. I'm gonna shock them in some ice water. Once they're cooled, we can drain them, and then we can get started on our mushrooms. In a high-rimmed saucier or frying pan, add in enough olive oil to coat the bottom of the pan and a knob of butter. Then we're gonna go in and add in our shiitake mushrooms. Get those tossed in the fat. We wanna develop some nice color on those mushrooms. Once you see that, we're gonna go in with the onions. We're gonna hit them with a little bit of salt. We want to bring out some sweetness in the onions. So I'm just gonna cook them down. They're gonna go from white to opaque, and then they're gonna start to caramelize again. And once those onions get nice and dark, we're going to add in our garlic and a little bit of thyme. Just cook that until the garlic begins to soften and becomes fragrant. Then we can transfer that whole mixture into a bowl while we get started on the bechamel. Now to make the bechamel, we're gonna take that same pan. I'm gonna add a little bit of butter to it, some halved garlic, and some thyme. And we're gonna infuse that butter with those flavors. Once I start to see that garlic start to develop a little bit of color, then we can start to sprinkle in our roux. I'm gonna start with about 2 tablespoons of flour and 2 tablespoons of butter and get that all mixed in. If I notice that roux is a little tight, I'm gonna add a little bit more butter to thin it back out. I'm looking for a smooth consistency. Once the roux is formed, we're just gonna cook it for a little bit. Cook some of that rawness out of the flour. And once it's like a nice golden brown, then we can start to slowly work in our liquids. Starting with the sherry, we wanna deglaze the pan, and then we can go in with our milk and begin to slowly add it to the roux. Once the milk is in, we're gonna go ahead and add a cup of our stock or broth. Once that's in, all we have to do is bring it up to a boil, activate the thickening power in the flour, and you can check for the consistency you like. I prefer it a bit more saucy. Now we can take that bechamel and strain it into the bowl with the green bean and mushrooms and give it a stir, and there you have the base of the green bean casserole. Our green bean casserole base is ready to go. It can now enter the baking dish. That's ready to go. All we need is the topping. First up, we're going in with Ritz crackers, and they make these like stacks now. This is actually the perfect amount we need, like 12 or 13 crackers. And I just want to roughly crush them. You got some fine pieces, you got some coarse pieces, texture. Then of course the classic. The only thing I can get behind with this recipe is the crispy fried onions. So we're just gonna go in with like an equal amount of that. Then we're just gonna take about a 1/4 cup of fresh parsley, and I wanna chop it real fine, get that tossed into the mix as well. And then totally optional, but a little bit of Parmigiano Reggiano. Then we take 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm just gonna pop it in the microwave and melt it. Then pour that butter into the bowl and mix it all together, get everything nicely coated in that butter. Now we take that topping and we just scatter it across the top of the green bean casserole. Just for oven safety, we're gonna throw that on a little sheet tray. We can toss that into a preheated 375-degree oven, and we're gonna cook that for about 20 minutes. Halfway through, we're gonna give the casserole a check. I'm gonna rotate it just so it browns evenly. If after 20 minutes the casserole is not bubbling but the topping is getting too brown, use a piece of aluminum foil as a tent over the top to protect the crust until the casserole starts bubbling. And because that sauce isn't like super gloopy, it looks a lot fresher to me. Just from a visual standpoint, this is a much more appealing and appetizing green bean casserole. And right off the bat, the aroma, you pick up that sherry. It smells like flavor. Now, if there's one thing I would critique is maybe I would have cut these string beans a little smaller, but not that big of a problem. So now let's taste it, see if I've been a fool all these years, or if the hatred was justified all along. Roastiness from the mushrooms. The sauce is saucy and not like gloopy and thick. I think I kind of like it. Very flavorful, very satisfying. The green beans aren't cooked to they still have some life to them, which is what I want. And the thing I'm loving the most, so much texture. Between the green beans, the Ritz crackers, the crunchy onion, that's the kind of thing that satisfies me. If you need a good green bean casserole recipe, the recipe to this is gonna be in my holiday plan of attack. It's my ebook, sell it every year. It holds all my holiday and family recipes around this time of year. And I've heard countless stories of how this plan of attack has transformed the holidays for many families all over the place. So if you want to upgrade your Thanksgiving and your Christmas, holiday plan of attack is going to be linked down in the description. That's all that I've got today. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself and go feed yourself.